Hello and welcome to the miscast table. Today we are full force with 4 people in the panel, and we are going to discuss battle report number 3. And with me today we start with Jonas. How are you doing?
Quite fine, actually. I have a lot on the table, both painting wise and like private, but yeah, it's nice to be here.
Is it the same kind of schedule for you, Mons? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very busy. We're going to a tournament next week, so I have a lot of stuff to paint. Currently on the table there is 20 Illyrian Reavers.
And the tournament you're going to, it's Umeå, right?
Yeah, it is. So the hometown of Squidmar.
Yeah, first tournament of Warhammer, the old world.
Yes,
as far as we
is.
know. And Martin, we have found that you had some unpainted things. So have you painted it up yet? When I was at your place last time, Mr. I have nothing in the painting queue. He had a full box of stuff.
Yeah, you said you had nothing in your
that was
pile of
lies.
shame. You were lying.
I was lying. I found a moving carton. What are they called? Like the big ones?
Box.
Yeah, a box full with them. There were bits and pieces, and there were even full models that I hadn't painted. So they got up 3 days ago and got a layer of prime, and I'm starting them over.
What models are they?
I think it's giant rats for Skaven. So it's tiny models, but I have to add them. Because now I'm expanding my Skaven army with a pestilence theme. So I got the plague furnace and the giant rats. The giant rats will fit well into the plague theme, I think. So lucky me, I guess. No.
I have stuff to do.
Yeah. But the Screaming Bell or the Plague Furnace, all the war machines for Skaven are... I think they're fun to paint, but they take so long. There's lots of details on them.
Yeah.
Bigger models have the tendency to... You find more and more details as farther you paint the models.
Yeah.
So you'll always look at the model. Oh, this is going to go quick. And then you find another piece and some jewelry and...
Yeah.
More and more as you paint.
Lots of work. But I've been focused on the gaming room at home, and I'm almost done. I have the electrician coming in on Wednesday doing the last wiring and the plumber to connect the heated flooring.
We need to do a video of that. Some video on how the dream gaming room can look like.
Yeah,
because it is.
I would like to have a bit more square footage, but with the starting point I have, it's not bad at all.
It's very efficient.
Yeah.
Should we go into some tactical breakdown of the battle report?
Yeah.
We have first off, it was Dark Elves versus Beastmen.
Yeah.
And we can have a spoiler alert. If you haven't watched the episode, we are going to spoil. So if you want to see the episode of the battle report without knowing who will win, you should watch battle report number 3 on our YouTube channel. It was Mons and Martin who played the game. So as a viewer, I'm gonna ask Jonas first. What did you think about the game?
Kinda think that Beastmen are looking strong.
Beastmen are looking strong.
Yeah, like it looked really one-sided, I almost have to say, at the start. And then just the stability of the Beastmen army came through, and we got to see some real nice clashes of units.
Martin, do you agree? Do you felt that the Beastmen was a good army?
I do. I feel like they are in a place where they deserve their name. Like the ambushers, it works. It hasn't done it previously, and they are ferocious, a bit swingy still, but that's kind of on point for the army.
We had a comment from Mons in the end of the game where he said that he was going to have to rework his list.
Yeah.
Have you been thinking about your list? And first off, like what was the idea with that list that you had, and what after the battle report, what did you felt didn't go as planned?
I think the idea with the list, I like the high mobility lists, and that was the plan here as well, to maybe go towards one flank and try to flank the Beastmen. With the Cold One Knights, I had the Dark Riders going in as scouts and stuff like that, using the Dragon's mobility. I guess that was the plan, while you're using a pretty strong backline shooting with the Dark Shards. But I believe they're called something else now. They're called like
Crossbowmen.
Dark Elf crossbowmen.
Yeah, something like that.
Repeater crossbowmen.
Yeah. But the biggest problem for me was, it was basically two things I think that I did wrong. Number one was that I was too aggressive with my Cold One Knights. I basically put myself up for a charge in the middle by all of Martin's units.
Yeah.
And that was definitely a mistake. I was way too aggressive. The second problem was that I left my backline too weak, because I knew before we started, that they had ambushers, and I only left like my crossbowmen and my war machine, the spear shaka or bolt thrower. So I think that was the big like tactical mistakes.
Yeah.
I believe if I would have played differently, I would have left one of my cavalry units in the back to help protect them, and not be as aggressive with the Cold One Knights.
No, that's probably a large part of playing a mobile army, that you are mobile. You have to wait for your opportunity.
Yeah.
Where the point arises where you can get the units you want into combat at the same time. I think you got a bit greedy. The Cold One Knights are so strong, but because like we played before, if you churn into a unit and you defeat them, then you more often than not out of the arc.
Yeah.
But it's not the same anymore.
No, it isn't, and you can't. It's not that easy to overrun into a new unit either, because that basically means that the unit has to break and flee, and that's not as likely to happen. So I have to be less aggressive with my high mobility list. I think I've done that mistake like two games, and I have to start learning from my mistakes now.
That's what we are here for.
Yeah.
We are going to try to learn. And we have to mention the elephant in the room, where the climax of the battle went to a unit that had Monster Slayer rule. And the Monster Slayer rule is something that we have discussed and talked about, that it might be the counter to taking down the big monsters with 8 or 9 wounds. And in a battle report before this, Jonas, you were against a couple of monsters. How did you feel or see and think about when you now saw the monster rule in effect? Is it a good counter to monsters?
I think it's absolutely necessary for the game that there is some counter to like lords on monsters, because it's strong and it's fun to play, so it definitely has a place in the game. But I somewhat feel that there are too few units that has Monster Slayer. Usually it's only like monsters themselves, like in the battle report, there Martin brought his Cygor, which seems really, really good. It's a monster that has the Killing Blow and Monster Slayer rule, so you don't really want to run into it either.
It's a Gorgon. It's
sorry.
also the only unit in Beastmen that has the rule.
Yeah. And if you want access to it, then you have to buy the magical weapon, the Dragon Slayer sword, right?
There is a weapon. I don't remember the name of it, but it's a weapon that give you
Monster Slayer.
Monster Slayer.
Yeah. And the problem with that weapon, I think, is that it costs 50 points.
Yeah.
It does nothing more. So it's kind of expensive.
It's kind of expensive. Yeah. We talked about at work. We have a dwarf player, and we talked what a dwarf can do, and they do not have many options against a monster. And we see if we maybe can get a dwarf game in the future. And I think one thing that we'll have to test is what can they do against a monster, because they don't have that many options.
I think the biggest oversight in the dwarf armies, like the slayers, you have a unit that is called like Dragon Slayer, and then you have a Demon Slayer, but the Dragon Slayer has a worse instance of killing monsters. It has multiple wounds rules instead of just picking away every wound, and that feels so wrong.
I think that's the Giant Slayer because there you have there's some very many different versions of Slayers in I think it's 4.
Yeah, and
4
Slayers
kind
are
of
the
Slayers.
coolest dwarf units.
But dwarf can also shoot monsters. Like a organ gun into a monster strength 5 with armor piercing on the shots. I mean, that's not terrible.
Yeah,
That's
It's
decent.
not. Yeah, it's decent, but it
I-
still takes some time
Yeah.
to wither them down.
I
You're not
think
gonna
it's
kill them in
something-
one turn, 9
No.
wounds. No, that's not gonna happen.
I think it's something that needs to be tried out at least. How is it to play dwarves against a monster heavy list? Because a monster in this edition can be very, very
Yeah,
hard to take down.
Yeah.
And fun to play too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Beastmen list, Martin. How were you happy with the list, or was it something at the end of the game that you felt like this unit I should have changed, or maybe made it bigger or smaller? Or?
I felt like it was kind of balanced, but that's also because I got duplicates of each unit just to have an easy list to play. Gores in ambush, super fun. Bestigores, still strong. On the charge, they're even better since they get the initiative plus on the great weapon, so they can strike first.
You get armor piercing as well, right?
Yeah, -2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not from the great one, from making a successful charge.
No, that's just a few units that have faux render, I think it's called.
All right, yeah.
And then you have to pass a primal fury test. So in addition to re-rolling once, you get AP +2, something like that. But they are strong. There are some units like the chariots and the pigs. I'm not the best chaff player, so I have to figure out how to move them and what to be afraid of, or redirect and so on, because that's a large part of the game still.
I think the Razor Gore herds are super strong.
Yeah.
They're strength 5, toughness 5. They have impact hits,
Yeah.
and they're so strong.
Yeah, and they have
AP -3.
Yeah, it's
might have AP -3.
Yeah,
I
might
think
have.
their baseline is -1 with the razor tusks or something, and then you get the faux render. So if you pass the primal fury, you get AP 3, and then you have armor bane 1, so 6s are AP 4.
Yeah.
So they can eat a large chunk, but they're only leadership 6. If I'm
Okay,
correct.
so it's hard to pass the primal fury test.
Yeah, they have to be in a flank with the general.
Yeah, but
Sort
if you do have the general nearby, they
Yeah.
are absolutely
Yeah,
monstrous.
and they're quite cheap still.
Yeah, like 52 points.
So it's something like that. But you have to have 2 at least. That's my feeling.
I would take as many as I could.
Yeah.
Probably they're premium. They're so good.
We actually have a comment that is tactically related to this battle report from Erik Bergfeldt. First one is for the Dark Elves, and it's to a list building thing. And I'm not as good in Dark Elves, and I'm not sure if Mons is too. So let's see if we can get this. He wrote, blood armor is really good in combination with Pendant of Khalith. Hit average infantry with Noxious Breath, and they are likely to have a +2 armor save. Combined with the Shield of Sea Dragon Cloak, you get +1. I'm not sure if you can get +1 armor save, but there's a combination you can take where you get really good armor save, and I assume that this is for the Lord.
Yeah, this is probably for the Lord. I saw one thing that I played wrong, and that is that the Black Dragon and the Dread Lord have split profiles.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that. But split profiles, that means that you use the best armor save.
Yes.
You don't get to combine them. So that I definitely played wrong. It's a bit weird that it is laid out that way, because most other armies have you get the pluses. But because it is that way, I think you need to give it some extra armor saves.
Yeah.
And then that might be a way of doing it. I'm not sure, like on the top of my head, exactly what those things do.
No, but it's a tip to get better armor save for the Lord, as far as I understand.
As far as I know, the blood armor is an armor that starts out kind of weak, but for each wound inflicted, you improve the armor save by 1 point.
Okay.
And Noxious Breath of the Dragon means that you just go in, flame a bunch of shaft units, and then you have that 2+ armor.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really solid tactical.
But breath weapon, you're not allowed to use breath weapon in combat. So
but before you head into combat.
Yeah, but I feel like it might be hard to focus or have a unit that has. I want to have breath weapon, but I also want it to be a combat unit. You can use it, but it's something to keep in mind that it might be a sacrifice having breath weapon on a unit that you want to have in combat as much as possible.
Yeah,
I always think that's a difficult way off. Like usually the first turn when I play with the dragon, either you basically have to march to get over to the side where you want to be, unless there's anything dangerous.
Out of the arcs and so on.
And usually turn 2 you want to make a charge if possible to get into combat. Because flying and doing breath weapon, that can be good, but I usually think it's better to get a charge against a unit if you believe you can take them. And so I always find that a difficult way off. Like, do I go in and flame or do I make the charge?
And then you can't flame when you're marched.
Yeah.
So you sacrifice a lot of movement to say that I want to do a flame attack. A flame attack, is it? It's the template.
Yeah.
And
breath
it's a template. That template is 8-inch, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. So the first turn, if you have fly, you get 10-inch, and then if you could put the template, most likely you can't put the template then. So then you would have to do a march, and you can't use the template, most likely.
Yeah.
So it's the breath weapon on that unit is a little bit tricky.
Yeah, but it could be really good against units that have like quick to fire or that can do a really strong stand and shoot or something. Then you don't need to charge them. You can just fly in and flame them instead.
A perfect unit, as I see it, is like the gyrocopter. It has the flame template, but most of the time the gyrocopter do not want to be in combat.
Yeah, it's weak in combat.
So you have a unit that you always stay out of combat and you flame when you can. That's a better use of the flame weapon.
Yeah,
like the Chimera or something.
Yes,
something that flies around and possesses a threat, and it could be a nice way to control the game as well, to expand your charge arcs. Because more often than not, you're just on the line where a unit can charge or be charged. And sometimes they want to move out of the way and can still fire and so on. If you put a dragon on the side, it's just either way.
Yeah.
So you just have to pick.
I kind of want to add in one perspective as well. Like when you have the breath weapon in use, you have very low risk to the dragon itself. You just get up there and then you flame and you get the bonus from killing stuff. When if you go into combat, you might lose a wound or two.
But
you can't cast. In my case, I'm using my wizard on top of it, and I can't cast spells in combat.
That's perfect. Yeah, I was gonna say that, like a wizard on a dragon and with the breath weapon, then it's superb because you have a unit that most likely don't want to be in combat and flame away.
Yeah,
but
and it can handle itself if you do get into combat.
Yeah.
On the split profile, so in the game, Monster Slayer got into effect. Should the wizard still be alive on the ground?
No.
No.
If the monster is removed, then the whole model is removed.
Yeah. We have a tactical thing for the Beastmen army too from Eric Beltfeld. The Brayherd can take Minotaurs in ambush. Put a chieftain in charge as a general, and Brayhorn will make it very likely that the Minotaurs will ambush early and cause havoc in the back line.
Yeah.
Minotaur ambushers?
Yeah. That'd be something fun to try out.
I think they're the same as Gores, where you pay a point or most likely 3 points each for ambushers, special rules. And the Brayhorn is a general item. If you have a Wargore or something, he gets the Brayhorn and you can re-roll the ambush roll.
And one important note on that, as long as he is the general.
Yeah.
I think that was played wrong in this game. Maybe.
I don't remember who I put as a general.
Yeah.
If it was the wizard or the...
It at least it is a comment later on regarding the rules that we...
Yeah, that's probably a mistake.
You had the BSB.
Yeah, exactly, and he can't be general. Yeah.
No.
So I played that wrong, but I didn't need the rerolls, and I didn't reroll.
No. But it's
So
a
lucky
good
me.
thing to keep in mind when making your Beastmen list, because that rule is stated with cursive. So you have the rule text, and then it's cursive that says you can only have this on the general.
Yeah.
And as long when it cursive text, somehow I don't see it.
No,
It's so many times in this rule book I have read the rule for the item, and then it's some cursive text, and often it's super important.
Yeah, but what's the point of having it in cursive?
not,
Why can't it
not
just be
often.
in the...
I would say the cursive text is more fluff.
Yeah.
Like a description of a spell, then the spell itself, what happens is in normal text.
I agree.
Yeah.
But then they have cursive text for something super important, like you can only have this on the general.
Yeah.
That I have a small beef with that, because I done things wrong in the armor list and played wrong, and it's often because the text that is important and regarding that rule is in cursive. But that's a small note. So the game was played and the Beastman was victorious.
Yeah.
Did you feel that you could have done something different to win, Mons?
I talked about that before, and that was the aggressiveness. But I did have a small chance to come back a little bit. But then Martin rolled his double once.
Yes.
And then it was over. I probably wouldn't have won either way, but it might have made it a more competitive match.
Yeah, more even outcome.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I mean, I just have to play safer with my high mobility units, because I can pick and choose the moment where the charge happens, when the combat happens, and that is important. You don't need to take the first chance you get.
No.
We have to see in the future with another Beastman Dark Elf match if we can have a different result, or if the Beastman is just plain better.
Yeah. Or I just suck.
No, I think that was your main pet peeve, that you should have waited.
Yeah, I should have waited.
That's basically it. That was the beginning of the end. It could have, the snake eyes was bad for you.
Yeah,
because that would have a large impact. But that's just dumb luck, basically. That's not a strategical error.
Yeah, it was basically over before that.
I think it was over before that, but it was like a nail in the coffin.
Yeah, that was definitely the nail.
But it was definitely going downhill.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we are going to start going through some rule mistakes. Free for all 96. You need 3 inches to get launch to take effect on a charge up, and then we get a response from a user comment that says, his nickname, Shalata Dirty Deeds. Lances is one of the few charge bonuses that don't need 3 inch, so it was actually played correctly.
Yeah, that was when he made a fallback in good order, and he did 1 inch, and I rolled. And that's the way I've understood the rules.
Yes,
it's always on a charge. It's not distance depending.
Some of the rules gives you the bonus only if you have made 3 inch charge.
Yeah, like impact hits.
Yes, but the lance is just make a charge. So it was played correctly, but I think it is still worth to discuss, because some rules doesn't take effect if you are outside of inside of 3 inch.
No.
So it's worth pointing out and easy to miss, but you actually played it correctly. We have another rule that is a little bit hard to remember, if you ask me. Poxius 3854. You do not take terror test in combat. Fear do not cause unless models cause fear on the numerous. So you have to have higher unit strength to cause fear. And this is 2 rules, that one of them happens when you charge against a unit, and the unit you charge against have to do a test, and another one is the opposite. Jonas, do you know which is which?
Fear comes into play if you want to charge a unit. Then you need to test unless you have higher unit strength.
Yes.
And terror comes into play when the monster or model that has terror charges you.
Yes.
Then you need to test.
But if you're in combat with a unit that has terror, don't you need to take a fear test?
No.
Yeah, because if you fail, then you get -1 to hit.
That's when you fear test is.
Yeah.
Sorry, fear test is, and you have to have higher unit strength.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but a model that has terror has fear as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you always
So
need to take.
you need to do a fear test if the fear costing monster or unit have higher unit strength
Yeah.
All
than
right.
the other one.
Exactly.
So
So your dragon of 9 unit
Yes.
strength against
Yeah.
this Brayherds of 20.
Yeah, so he shouldn't have.
needed to.
Needed
But
to.
No,
I
but I
did.
think if I remember correctly, I can't swear on it, but I think we rolled the terror test at the beginning of combat because we forgot in the charge, just to see if it would have a different outcome.
No,
Yeah, but
I just-
when I charge you, you need to take a terror test. But is that even if he has higher unit strength?
terror, yes.
Terror,
Yeah.
yes.
Terror doesn't. The terror test has to be done regardless of unit strength.
Yeah.
But I know the specific time that they were talking about it, and it was when it was a combat and Mons asked for a terror test in combat. But that was and I think it's not as much of Mons' fault or anything. It's a lot of thing to remember. So
Yeah.
if you have terror, it actually gives you 4 effects. It gives you one thing happens when you charge. One thing happens when someone charges you. One thing happens when you're higher unit strength than them, and one thing happens when they take a break test. So it's a big rule to remember.
Yeah.
What happens when they take a break test?
If you have terror and you have to take break test, you have lost the combat. So it states the win something with the winning unit. But when you lose and you have to take a break test, if I have a terror unit, you will have -1.
So it's not to a combat resolution, but it's
to the test.
Yeah.
to the test. Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
it's harder to be within that area where you get fall back in good order
Yeah.
because you reduce
But-
the characteristic.
But it's not so it's not +1 in combat res, but it's -1 to leadership, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a difference
Yeah.
at
It
times.
is. Yeah.
It gives you -1 to your leadership when you're making the break test, if I
Yeah.
remember the wording correctly.
And that's good because it's easier to break units.
Yes, a terror unit can do stuff. It
Yeah.
actually can do stuff.
Just have to remember the full page.
And then we have something that is to Mons, the list builder, and it is me have commented on this. And
Bringing it up
wait,
here.
Professional troll.
wait. We have four more comments. Defradus video, Lingveo, Petradoski, Zlatan Dirty Deeds. Zlatan Dirty Deeds. And it is when you have a wizard and you replace his spells, you are only allowed to replace one of them with the special lore, and if you do, you cannot also pick the signature spell. So you effectively remove your choice of having a signature spell for something else.
Yeah, I realized that as well. I had read the rule as you could pick one from the army book and one signature spell, but that was wrong. So I had the wrong spells.
I'm not sure of this, but I bet that the text that tells you this is cursive.
Might be.
Maybe. But I did play that wrong. I don't think that's gonna change that much for me in the future, because I think the Waltz Unmaking from the this was the Dark Elves, yeah. But they also have some really good spells in their army book, so I think most of the times you pick one from the army book.
Yeah.
And from the High Elves you also pick Waltz Unmaking because it's so good.
But it just
It's
is
kinda nice.
just to remember that you're only allowed to pick one when you do so.
That is important, especially since we're going to a tournament in 1 week, so I don't.
We don't want to mess up in a tournament. This is also for the Dark Elves. Konatalasina. Gathering darkness on the cold one nights. So no. This is actually the Beastmen who cast a hex spell on cold one nights.
Yeah.
And it's on page 108. Choose a target. And you can't target a unit that is in combat. and that was the mistake. So you can't cast hex spell on a unit that is in combat.
Okay, because that had a large impact.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, Monster.
I won't forgive you for that.
I actually didn't check the states on hex if it gives you an if the specific hex spell gives you an exception. But when you cast a spell, you're not allowed to do so. So I don't think it's
it
fine.
might be. I know one of the rules was even engaged in combat, but I can't swear if it was augment or hex.
But
I
all
don't
spells
know.
except assailment, basically, you can't cast into combat.
Exactly. That's what I remember.
And spells that are self-cast.
Yeah.
Enhancements with self
Yeah.
as range.
Yeah, range self you can cast.
Range self you can
Okay.
cast on yourself.
Yeah. We
That's
forgot when I went into combat with your chariot, I had made an enhancement spell on my spearman, and
Yeah.
I had hexed your chariot,
Mm.
and we forgot both of those things. We forgot that you were hexed and that I was enhanced in that combat, and I think that was the one that was even. We had a draw.
Yeah, probably.
But the spearmen won eventually, right?
Yeah, they won
Yeah,
eventually,
they
but
won.
it took like
Yeah.
2 or 3 turns.
But that's one of those things that is
That's the
very
one where I
important
had
to remember.
Yeah,
really
but that
sick saves, right?
Yeah,
I
I
had
think
a
you
5
did.
plus or something, and I managed 5 out
Yeah.
of 6.
Yeah.
But that's because we didn't have the spell cards at that time, and the spell cards are super important.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to say exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
You basically
You wanna
highly
put that,
recommend use spell cards,
Yeah.
and if you don't have the official ones, use something that you have,
Yeah,
tokens or
yeah, some
print
for
out.
sort of token by the unit. But I have to check out the hex spell.
Yeah.
50-50, because it's so strong. I would say that you shouldn't be able to cast it into combat. -2 initiative and leadership.
Yeah, I think so.
You shouldn't be able to cast that into combat.
But it's kind of there. You want it. You
Yeah,
want to
but-
make those impactful leadership tests.
Yeah, but that could be it could work as a scare tactic as well. Like if I see a unit that is about to charge, if you had a high mobility list and surrounding,
Yeah.
I could cast that on a strong unit, like figure out which one it has the most impact on, cast it on them, and then I screwed you over a bit.
Yeah.
It might be a thing to not follow up, to stay out of combat,
Yeah.
to be able to do the spell, and maybe give him a charge. That might be the thing
Yeah.
you could do to actually
Absolutely.
still do the hex spells. It's just if you win, do not follow up, do your hex spell, and then do your bad stuff.
Yeah, and take the charge.
But we are very used to being able to both cast hex spell and enchantment spells to units, and therefore at least I value those spells very highly. I value them more than a magic missile. But maybe in the old world it's something that you have to rethink, that you can't cast a hex spell in combat, then it's maybe not that good. Or still it's good, but
It's very
Yeah,
tactical.
but you really have to think about both how you place your wizards and how you play the game.
yeah.
Yeah, but usually you get the chance to cast it because it happens in the strategy phase. Then no unit series in combat. Then you hex, then you go into movement, then you charge.
Yeah.
Then you get the bonus. So it's kind of like you can't tilt a combat that has already started,
No,
but you can
exactly.
get a good alpha strike.
It's
Yeah.
it's only the time that you have chosen follow up, or your opponent have chosen follow up, so that you actually start in combat. That's the
Yeah.
only time that you don't, and that might be the other thing to think about. If you know that your opponent have a hex spell, and you follow up, so he can't place it, that may be a tactic that is actually important to remember. You can deny someone an hex spell or an
Yeah.
enchantment.
I kind of think that is the premier feature of the old world. Like give ground, follow up
Yeah.
in good order, and like actually fleeing. Like
It's
It
so
gives
many
some
things
breathing
around it.
room
Yeah.
for events to happen.
and it's so. It seems so simple, but it's so complex to
Yeah.
play around.
Can we just talk about how bad fallback in
Give
ground is?
Yeah, I
It's
know.
so bad
It's
because
so bad.
you have the same facing. So if you've
Yeah.
been charging the side, you just move in the side all the time. Like it's way better to fall back in good order.
Yes.
I would
Then-
choose that every time.
I would
basically.
choose fallback in good order probably every time. I'm not. Maybe there's some scenario when, but most of the time, fallback in good order is so much better. But
Yeah,
it's harder to get to.
Yeah.
It's actually, and first off, when I saw the rules first time, I thought, but why? Why is give ground double 1. Why is it's the best result give ground, but it's also that it's actually harder to get fallback in good order. How they have made it, so I must give them some pack on the back. It's a little bit genius how they made the fallback in good order. It's actually made so that the underdog, if you are losing a lot, and you have a bigger chance to get fallback in good order and have a bigger chance to get back.
Yeah.
So I actually started to really like the thing how that works.
Yes, because if you give ground, you can't do a reform. That's the
big thing.
Yeah.
You can't turn, you can't do anything. You just have the same
You can't
placing.
even choose it, because in previous edition you could lose a combat and pass the result, and you just stood still. Even there, if it was to the side, you just stayed to the side. But you could opt to reform and pass a modified leadership test.
You can't do that here.
Well,
do that.
the thing is, you can never do a combat reform here.
In combat or in...
There's no such thing. The winning team, the winning team can't do either.
No. It's only when you fall back in good order.
Yeah.
It's really tricky, but I actually starting to really like that.
Yeah, I kind of think it's interesting as well to tag back to the rules about lances and impact hits, because if you have a knight unit and then you get into a combat where the opponent only gives ground, it's really hard to decide, do I follow up? Because next turn, then I'm just going to fight with my hand weapons and probably not deal any damage at all.
But you get lanced on that occasion.
Do you get lances?
Yes.
Do you
follow
up
up
in good?
It's a pursue. It's a charge.
Lance is one of those.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Follow up might not be that.
Yeah, if you fall back in good order, then you definitely get lances.
Yes.
But if you only give ground, I think it counts as you are stuck in combat another turn. Like like you don't get hatred if you give ground.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it works that way.
Okay, that's right. If you do a follow up to give ground, is that a charge? I don't think it is.
No, exactly. And that's really hard when you're playing cavalry heavy lists.
Yes.
Do I follow up?
That might be the thing that the other comment actually said. When I think about it, it was a comment where he thought that you shouldn't have get the lance bonus. Maybe it was a give ground.
No, it was a fall back in good order, but it was only 1 inch, and that may be why they have been confused that it was a.
But that's still fine. You still get it. A small thing. It was like a Doomfire Warlocks or something that you forgot to have. No, it wasn't Doomfire. It was some unit that we forgot move and shoot penalty when they moved. I don't remember exactly when, but it's a thing that it's easy to forget, but it isn't an excuse.
Yeah.
And a more important one though.
It was the Doomfire. I cast a spell with the Doomfire Warlocks, Magic Missile. The first turn I did that. After that we realized it, and I didn't do it again. But I did it the first turn, and that wasn't allowed.
That maybe that is the one, or is because another thing is if you have your Doomfire Warlocks and they march, they cannot cast a Magic Missile.
No, I think that was the mistake we did.
Yeah.
And I think one other mistake with shooting, there's no penalty for multiple shots.
Yeah, we realized that in our game too.
No.
Yeah.
And I have so I
find out that there is actually, it's just that you get the area where you get listed all the penalties for shooting, and it's not there.
No.
But then you check multiple shots rule, and then it's there.
It's there. All right,
and
then
it's
you
like
did play it correctly.
It is a penalty for multiple shots.
But why isn't it in the rules?
This is kind of funny. This is gonna be even more funny when you see me and Jonas match Wood Elves versus Demons, because I confused this back and forth like 5 times during that match. Is it? Is it not? Is it?
But that was a slugger game. Like.
It's gonna be fun. Another thing, dragons have Thunderstomp, and that gives AP -2, and that's because they have the Behemoth rule. So it's on. It's just a statement, and it's something that we forgot.
We probably did some mistakes in the lumbering rules as well, where you can.
Yeah, you don't get the turn.
If you don't march,
then
you get the 90
I don't think we did that mistake in this game. We did it in the one before. But I know that we did the Thunderstorm wrong, because the day after we played that game, I found AP -2, because I thought it was really weird that they didn't have, but they do.
And lumbering don't give you a free turn at the end. It is a pivot.
Okay, pivot. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's a
pivot.
90-degree pivot.
Yeah.
But that's a turn.
No, that's not a turn.
It's
A turn is one thing, a pivot is another thing.
a turn is where you like line up and then you
Use
wheel
the
them.
Yep.
A pivot is just
Around the center.
Yes.
around the center.
No, turn if you have a block unit and they face unit facing, like what you might be allowed to do. If
Yeah,
you,
you're right.
Yeah.
The turn is a pivot, but a wheel is not a pivot.
Yeah,
That is the difference.
exactly.
Yeah.
So turn, they just change facing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it costs a
And on
percentage of the
a
movement, right?
like lumbering monster, it is actually the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
so
you
it's a
move
pivot.
the unit around the center of it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
So
pivot.
pivoting, changing facing.
Yeah, but I think
Potato,
they,
potato.
yeah, they usually
Yeah.
call it turn in this rule book.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure about turn wheel if that's the same. And if
Wheel
they're
is
using
different.
Wheel is
Pivot.
different.
wheel is different.
Yeah.
But they use turn and pivot.
Yeah, and
Okay.
pivot is different at
Yeah.
times, but in the scenario for monsters, it isn't.
Yeah, but for a monster,
Yeah.
a wheel is different.
A wheel is
For
different.
for the monster, a wheel would be different because
Yeah.
he would change placing on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the difference when changing facing is that
Yeah.
if you get into like, let's say you have an infantry unit, that's the most obvious time when it comes to play, and they're looking straight ahead, and you kind of want to have a sideways arc,
Yeah.
then you're not allowed to. You can change the facing a whole 90 degree, but not like 45. For that you wouldn't have to pivot.
I think we are a little bit broken regarding the rules. We want it to be so literal so that it can't be confused. And Games Workshop, of course, they want the rules to be pretty and fluently and easy to read. So therefore you avoid using the same word for one thing many times because it doesn't read good.
Yeah.
But we want the opposite. We want, if you use pivot, you should use pivot all the time so you don't get confused on differences.
Yeah, but it's also we played like one game system for like 5 years, and then we get to the game system that's like almost the same,
But
not exactly the same,
Yeah.
and you confuse so many things.
Yeah.
Like,
still, I think that's the general issue, that those who write rules want them to be easy to read and beautiful to read, but that makes them many times a little bit confusing when you get down to the details.
yeah.
And most people avoid going down to the details, and that's fine too, but we usually go down to the details.
But you have to, because it's gonna matter in tournaments. And
Yeah.
we're going in 1 week to an Old World Tour tournament, but in 2 weeks we're going to an 8th edition tournament.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna bring so many Old World rules into 8th edition.
yeah,
I'm gonna mix it up so
definitely,
badly.
It's gonna be
Or
interesting.
it's just 2 weeks left.
Yeah,
That's
it's 2
right.
weeks left.
Next one is an easy one.
But I have
Yeah.
one thing regarding the rules and reading and understanding. Playing by intent, like explaining for your opponent what you want to do, and you two can agree on, is this possible, is it not? That's the best way to play, because then you avoid a lot of the gotcha moments and so on. If I say I want to move the spearmans to face them,
Yeah.
Will I be able to?
I think I can move and wheel and move again, and then we can have the dispute on beforehand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Don't
Is
get
this
into
possible? No,
rules
it's not.
arguments after something happens.
No.
Try
Like-
to get
Like
them
measure
before.
the charge distance before you roll the dice.
Yeah.
And like
This is 8. Yes, roll.
I think that's the two biggest one to do to be agreement in a match.
Yeah.
One is, after you have moved, ask the opponent, can we agree on that I am outside of your charge arc?
Exactly.
Number one. Number two is, measure the charge before you roll the dice and say, how much do I need on the die? I would say 9. Can we agree on this?
Yeah.
And then you roll, because then you don't get into the bad
Tedious,
parts, bad part of discussions where you start,
Doubt.
Yeah,
it.
you
doubt
get emotional
inches and millimeters. You get
Yeah.
that in. That's the best way to play it.
It is.
especially when you're playing with new people, like at tournaments and stuff. Like
I
agree
mean,
beforehand.
Our
That's-
group is a very
Every
good
time.
example where you should do it even if you have played in a long time.
Yeah.
Because if it actually matters, that we are going to color our decision if you haven't seen the dice.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure of it.
Yeah, probably.
And like if you are uncertain of a rule, ask your opponent.
Yeah.
Like, how does this work? I think it works like this. Yeah, I think so as well. It might be
Yeah.
wrong, but as long as you're in agreement,
Yeah.
it doesn't really
Yeah,
matter.
no, that comes into play. I think a lot of the games we play are on weeknights.
Yeah.
And by the time we're in turn 5 or something, it's 10, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And more often than not, if we have a disagreement, instead of looking into the book, sometimes we just, this is the most plausible outcome.
Yeah, it should work this
It
way.
should work this way.
We agree.
Yeah, and then
Move
we
on.
play it. So
Uh,
some of the rules mistakes are tiredness, and some are what's it called?
Maybe where you just agree, is this good enough? Okay. It's like a way to get the match going.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take so much time. You can't look up every rule.
No.
So some rules we just have to move on.
We still strive to play the perfect game,
Yep.
and we don't aim to edit out or re-edit some parts to cheat our way there. But I'm thinking we're on a good path. I
Yep.
think within 2 years, we probably have a perfect game on video.
I was thinking you were saying like 2 weeks.
No.
2 years.
No.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I hope it happens a lot sooner than that.
We-
But it is a complex game.
If
It is.
we get a video where no comments can find a fault, we have to do something. Where we actually get our dream, a perfect game.
Yeah.
We still want every comment. Please tell us every
Yeah.
wrongs we've done. We will fix them. But if we get a day where no one can find a fault, oh man, it's gonna be awesome.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be really, really good.
And the game where we get one dice roll wrong, like you should have hit on 3s, and that's the only wrong, it's still not good enough.
Yeah.
No.
No.
It will
Everything
haunt
has to
me,
be
but-
perfect.
Yeah. But then we need to start fabricating mistakes, because the comments we get on the videos
Yeah.
increase like their spread on YouTube. Like
Yeah.
it interacts with the algorithm. So then we need to find another way to to get people to comment on the videos.
I think it's fine just as is.
As
I'm really
is.
happy to read the comments. It's
Yeah.
just, it's like lately, there's so many comments.
Yeah. There's
Yep.
a lot of comments.
It is.
Yeah, but it's fun.
One easy thing, the Dark Lord had a great weapon, but you didn't need to strike at the Great Weapons Initiative 1 because he also has always strike first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I realized that when I edit.
Yeah.
Usually when I edit, like roughly edit the videos, and then Jonas do the graphics for the battle reports. And when I edit, I find a lot of mistakes that we do, because when you're caught up in the game, you
Yeah.
don't realize, but when
Yeah.
you sit there editing and like have a clear head, you're like, how
Ah.
could we misplay that? and that was one of the things I realized. I was like, Jesus, I should have been able to hit it way sooner.
But that's
Yeah.
important to
Yeah.
remember for every Dark Elf player, that he can ignore the always
Yes.
the always
Strike
last.
first and great weapon, which
Yeah.
gives strike last, and they cancel each other out.
Exactly. A couple of more. This is actually Mr. Karak also. Now he pointed out that you can't stack the saves when you have the dragon. So if you have if the rider has a 6+ and the dragon has a 5+, the armor save doesn't stack.
Yeah,
You
split.
you need to pick one of them, and it is because it's a split profile.
Yeah.
And it is, of course, it was a misplay, and the right text for this is on page 204 in the rulebook.
Yeah. I have a question there. I kind of thought that they stacked as well. I didn't like read that specific part about split profiles. But if you have an armor save of 4+ on a chariot per se, and then you have a, like say, a lord that rides that chariot, and you give him a magical item that improves armor save by 1, he just has light armor, so he has a 6+. Do you get to choose between a 5+, or do you improve the chariot save to a 3+?
No, I think they're split.
Okay, so
I
you
think-
you
yeah.
just take the best.
Yeah.
That's also one of those cases you take the best. Just in the armor save case, they don't stack in that
Okay.
way.
Split profile is a really weird rule, and I think that's gonna cause some misplays for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I wonder if it was on page 204. It's one page in the rulebook where they state exactly what happens with each characteristics when it is in a split profile. Which one stack, which one did you choose when? For example,
So
weapon
some
skill.
stack and some don't.
Yeah, and you have for example, weapon skill. you use the rider's weapon skill.
Yeah, always.
Yeah,
and it
always
is,
the rider.
and it
Yeah.
is stated in the same page, all of these differences when you do what.
Okay, so
Something happened.
You use the
left hand.
rider's weapon skill, you use the best armor save,
Yeah.
and like
Okay,
it's,
but in the case with the dragon then, the dragon has weapon skill 7, and the mage might have less.
You
Do you
use the
fight
mage.
together?
but
Yeah.
now you're talking about high elves, right?
Yeah.
And that's not split profile.
Are you sure?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
That it's the same as
Pinky
like with your
swear.
Pegasus. Yeah, pinky swear. But in that case, you use it choose from the army book, and you get like +5 wounds and plus all of that, and then it's not split profile.
Oh.
But some things like the Dark Elf Dragon, it doesn't have that. It's split profile, and it's the same with the like Agnarok Spider. They also have split profile. So some things you just add the stats
But
on.
isn't that under the rules for like chariot has split profile, and a
Yes,
rhythm
some of them
monster-
do. Some of them do. The
Okay.
dragon is not split profile, and the same goes for your Pegasus things. They're not split profile. So then you get to add
No, I
the.
think they are split profile.
Some of them might be, but the
Yeah.
dragon for high elves is not.
Okay.
I
And then you get to
recommend-
add
I'm
the
gonna
armor.
go home.
I,
and read the book
I
so
recommend.
thoroughly.
I'm pretty sure it's 204 in the rule book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes through that.
I'm
pretty
gonna
well.
read the book so hard before we play.
Yeah. So yeah, that it is a weird rule, and I don't understand why not all ridden things works the same as like the dragon for high elves.
No.
Why is split profile a thing? I don't really understand. But yeah, that is what it is.
It is
Okay.
what it is. Kiavati also want to mention remember the always strike rule gives you initiative 1, so you get, if you have always strike last, you can get higher. You can strike first if you do a charge and it charges 3 inch, then you actually strike at initiative 4, for example.
Yeah.
But it was like, I think it was one case where you just forgot about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did.
But the great
Um,
weapon, that's a large difference from before.
Yeah.
It lowers the initiative of the model to
Yeah.
1 before modifiers are applied.
Yeah.
So you can still get charge bonus, you can augment them or hex them and so on and so
Yeah.
on.
But it's just important to remember.
Yeah.
Jan Rugel J pointed out that the cold banner is a single use, and it is the cold banner.
I didn't read that, but it's probably correct. The single
Yeah.
use.
They call
Page
it the
23
banner of
in the
Nagaroth.
PDF.
Yeah, maybe I call it the banner of cold-blooded or yeah, something.
Cold-blooded banner. I
Cold-blooded
think.
banner. Yeah.
Yeah, cold-blooded banner. It's a single-use banner,
Yeah.
but it also
That's really good.
yes.
It's still worth it, but it makes it a bit worse. But for cold one nights, I
What
think
does it
it's
do?
you get to use 3d6 on your
Yeah.
leadership test, so you can use it
Yeah.
for stupidity rolls.
Lizardman.
Yeah,
Stuff.
Lizardman
Yeah.
Cold-Blooded.
So it's 1 use.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
in a crucial combat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I lost combat,
Yeah,
but I
or-
really want to stay.
Crucial
to use it.
stupidity.
Yeah, crucial
test.
stupidity test
That
as
might
well.
be the
It's,
most likely.
yeah, that was my plan to use it for stupidity test, but I
But
didn't
you
really
have
with
to-
single use.
You have to choose to roll 3 dice. Or
Yeah,
can you
you
roll
can-
2 and see the result and
No,
then use the banner
I
to
think
add
you
a
need
third?
to say ahead of time.
I think you need to say ahead of time as well.
Okay, because
Uh,
that's also a large
yeah.
difference.
Yeah,
might have to reread that if you can choose to when to use
Yeah.
it.
I think it just says you use 3d6 and
Okay.
remove the lowest.
Yeah,
Perhaps
then you have to choose.
the cutting the editor can put the rule here.
He won't.
He won't.
No. Most of this
So
is
this is
only
empty space.
audio. This is going to be released on Apple Podcast. It's going to be released on Spotify, on Pandora, on many platforms that don't have video.
Yeah. The editor for this is lazy.
Yeah.
This is sum it up.
Very lazy editor. I focus on the sound.
Efficient.
Efficient. Brayherd, we're gonna say 7-9 of spades 5. He pointed out that when you have Brayhorn, it's only the general who gets to use it.
Yeah.
And it was stated as before. It's a cursive text. So we can also take Alex Stoltz. Not sure if you have misread the strike last rule. No, this is the same as Kiavata. We have already regarded the great weapon wielders have an initiative of 1, but you can make it higher.
Yeah.
So Jonas Wolseski I really like the video, keep it up. Why did the Gorgon have 7 attacks when it says that it has 5? And I know that Martin has the answer on this. Why do a Gorgon have 7 attacks when it says 5?
It's quite easy. He has 5 attacks base, and then he has Frenzy and Blood Greed. Frenzy gives an extra attack, but Blood Greed ups it to 2, but he can only pursue and overrun 1d6. Because he stays and eats the flesh of the...
The Blood Greed rule.
Yeah,
basically.
so he has 5 plus 2.
Yep, so that's 7.
Yep.
The last comment regarding rules mistake is from me. Most important. No, I'm just kidding. The last, it is actually when you do a flee. When you flee from a combat with multiple units, who do you flee from, Martin?
The most numerous.
Highest unit strength.
Jonas?
Highest unit strength.
Jonas, you taught me this.
Yeah, but it's different when you flee and when you have
Okay, break. I'll say break. When you break from... when you lose combat and break, you have a multiple combat and you lose the break test, then you flee. What happens?
It makes my head hurt.
Yep.
But you basically go diagonally.
Yeah.
From the units.
All right, so you don't flee from the most numerous, you flee from...
No, when you flee from the unit with the highest unit strength.
Yeah.
But when you give ground or when you fall back in good order, then you fall back diagonally.
Yeah, that I agree on. Then we agree.
I guess the wording is when you break.
Yeah.
So when you break not from the unit who has most numerous. You don't break and you don't move away from the with highest unit strength. You do it diagonally from both of them.
But that's only in fall back in good order and give ground.
No, when you break.
Yeah, but here I think one detail is you still maintain the unit facing. So you move the main facing, so you can still get into the flank if you follow up, and still get up into the front arc.
Okay, so even when you flee.
No, when you give ground or fall back in good order.
Yeah, but Andreas said that when you flee as well.
I might have wrong on this. So is it when you
flee, you go from the unit that has the highest unit strength?
Yeah, that's how I've read it as well.
But this one is one of the rules that makes my head hurt.
Yeah, but I agree with give ground and fall back in good order. Then you go diagonally.
Yeah, you have to move out of base contact with every unit. There is a special rule for boxed in or something surrounded.
Okay, then I'm just wrong on this. So if you break, then it's most numerous.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I need to find, because I searched and I
this
searched
one is,
and I didn't find
to read
how
3 different places for this.
Yeah, I went up and down in the document. How is the flee rule when I break? Okay, I need to recheck if it is from most.
Luckily,
numerous.
most of the time you give ground, or fall back in good order.
So we can ignore the last comment. No, it's worth to discuss.
Yeah, it's worth,
of course, it's
worth discussing.
It's worth discussing how the flee rule rules.
About the mistakes we make in the podcast.
Yeah. I think that is.
Step 3.
I think that is basically this section, because now we have just regular user comment. I have gone through the roughly 24 to 36 hours of comments that is regarding rules mistakes and tactical mistakes or suggestions. So now we have just a couple of user comments for the last thing of today's episode. One of them is from John B. Had a question. Do you guys discuss or review submitted list? Try to get my own Dark Elves ready to go, and I'm struggling to get feedback on 2000 points I'm currently building towards. Is that something we could do?
Absolutely. I think we can do that. I think that would be a fun segment for the podcast, especially. We haven't done it before because we haven't received any lists.
So I say send it to miscasttable@gmail.com and we see what we can do. If we get 5,000 lists, we will start pick them. But if we get one list,
4,000 is okay.
4,000 we will do all of them.
Yeah. Okay. No, but we might even test play it if it's just the one list.
Of course.
That would be fun to play something someone else has built. What was the intent of this list?
That's the best way to test it.
Absolutely. If we get a list and we could probably test it out too.
Yeah, we have all the armies. We could probably play basically anything.
The last one is a more funny thing, I thought at least, because it's Mons again.
I know what this is gonna be.
No, I don't think. Maybe. Ja3734. I would say that those dark shards is in a picket line. A conga line is one dude following as a snake, and a picket line is when they are.
Yeah.
It's nothing, but yeah.
I guess he is technically correct.
Yeah.
But
I didn't know that was the word for it. That
picket
was
line.
actually what I wanted to pick it up, not because I wanted to put something on Mons. I wanted to pick it up because I didn't know that when you set them in a wide formation, that's a picket line, and I thought that was kind of fun to know.
Yeah, I'm guessing conga line, isn't that the dance where
you hold
on
each
the
other's
shoulders?
shoulders. Yeah, that's why it's a conga line.
Yeah.
But it's so fun to say conga line.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but he is correct. I
He is
believe he is
correct.
correct. Yeah.
And you have to make the music.
Yeah. You have to
if you
sing
play,
when you do
you
it.
have to sing the conga line song.
Yeah.
If you,
We're gonna send it also back a little bit to Ja37D34 because he doesn't wish us to compare as much to 8th edition.
No.
But it's gonna be hard to not to do. And I made a comment back to him, and I did a suggestion without asking you guys. So I ask now, should we do an episode maybe in 4 months that we actually break down, this is the differences, maybe to get it kind of out of our system, that the differences we have found is this.
Yeah.
Let's play Old World as Old World is without comparing.
I think that's a good idea. I think the problem is the same that we talked about before.
Yeah.
Like we play the game system for like 5 years.
Yep.
And when we play Old World, we mix up the rules in our heads. Like,
Yep.
is this 8th edition? Is this Old World? And I think that might be the reason why we get into that discussion. But I understand that can be really annoying if you haven't played 8th
Yeah.
edition that much. So we should like stop doing it, but it's really hard.
I think most is when we compare units. That's the thing that most people doesn't like. In this case, it was Warlock.
Yeah.
When we compare and say that, oh, now they are worse.
Yeah.
Because we once
It's
have played
hard to
them
avoid.
differently.
it's hard to avoid because you're so used to a unit behaving a certain way and when
Yeah.
it doesn't
But
come out that way.
that's why I
It's-
thought maybe we have an episode that we actually this is what we found. This
Yeah.
is the differences.
Yeah.
So if we could get it out of our systems, maybe we would stop comparing it
Yeah, but
by reflex.
we like comparing.
We do.
Previous to Old World, we compared WAP to 8th. There are some things are better, some things are worse. I'm not saying you can ever build a perfect game, but cherry picking is
But I mean
kind
it
of
as a
nice.
critique. If we get a lot of critique from our viewers, and one of the things that we get a lot of critique about is that stop comparing it to 8th edition.
Yeah.
We have to kind of listen and take it to us and say, is it a valid critique? And I must say, in some cases, yes. When
It is.
we might compare a little bit too much, but I think that maybe if we actually do it once, this is what we found. We maybe do it less.
Yeah, I think it's valid criticism, but I also think that the people that enjoy the comparisons probably don't write. I really enjoy the comparisons with 8 because it's really easier to lift out when you have negative. But I think we should do it a lot less.
Yeah,
but it's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be a bit difficult.
We must also say that we have when we played 8th edition, we had maybe 1,000 viewers on a battle report, and now it's 10,000 viewers. So it might be 9,000 that only know the whole world and 1,000 who know 8th. I wouldn't say that's statistically what it is, but
but
I
like
agree.
for viewer experience, like
for viewer experience,
let
we can
Old World videos be about Old World.
we can try.
Yeah.
We
But
will
we
do
can't
our best.
we can
Absolutely.
No,
promise.
we will do that from time to time. Still,
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
We can guarantee that it will happen, but we can do our best. And that's maybe how we can end the podcast. That we really thankful for all the comments, and we will try to become better at the game, better at battle reports, and better at the podcast.
we had one question.
Yeah, you wanna burn it out, right?
That's the final thing, because it's I know that I have written some notes. this is a thing or a couple of things. Yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah, I know
what
as well.
everyone knows this. Okay, the last question that we got. Sorry, I forgot about the name, but it is so funny. Okay, we have a vote now. Everybody can close your eyes. And the question is, who is the saltiest player? And when I say the name that you think is the saltiest,
All right.
we raise our hand.
All
Okay, is André the saltiest? Is Martin the saltiest? Is Måns the saltiest player? Is Jonas the saltiest player? Okay, nobody of us watched where we raised the hand, so it's only you viewers who know the saltiest player are, so we don't have to discuss this between ourselves.
This is not good for the pod format.
Oh, damn it.
But
Okay, it's Måns.
Yeah,
It's
it's me. It's me.
100%.
Everyone knows. But I'm definitely the saltiest player. But I think I'm the swingiest emotionally. Like I have maybe the biggest tops and the biggest downs.
You're very happy when your opponent is sad, and you're very sad when your opponent is happy.
I'm a pretty emotional player, and I get a bit salty. It's all in good fun, but yeah,
I had a screenshot on my phone I took from a battle report. It's like a Måns.disappointed.png where I remember the moment I revealed the storm banner and you had a lot of flying units, and it was just a look of disgust on your face.
You have
Like
it right now. You have it on the
most
phone,
emotional
right?
stuff.
So you have it like the
When I call.
background on your
No,
phone.
I should set that up. Like, oh, here's a disappointed person.
yeah, when I call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. See you in the
Video.
next battle report and the next podcast. Bye.
Bye.